Welcome to Twilight Fables, where happily ever after is never guaranteed. Tonight's tale is born of frostbitten hearts and shattered memories, a retelling of Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen. But in this version, love isn't a cure, it's the final trap. They said Kai had frost in his heart long before he vanished. He had always been kind, quiet, a boy who sketched stars in the dirt and listened too long to the wind. He didn't rush like other boys, didn't scuff his boots or shout to hear himself speak. There was something hushed about him, like snow falling in the middle of a city. The old women in the village used to say, "That one's got ice in his veins," but in a beautiful way. But in the weeks before the snow came, something in him shifted, small at first, like a whisper behind a closed door. He stopped laughing, stopped humming those silly songs he used to make up about clouds and bees and the way the sun glinted off the cobblestones. His sketches grew darker. They used to be of flowers and windmills and Gerda's face. Now they were filled with strange geometries and frozen cities where the sun never rose. He would stare too long at his reflection in windows, as if searching for something behind his own face. And then he began to speak of her. "She watches me through the snow," he said once, eyes fixed on the frost gathering along the window pane. "She's so lonely." Gerda had only laughed at the time. "Your stories are getting strange, Kai." But he hadn't smiled. "They're not stories." Then came the first snow. It fell like a veil across their little town, so heavy, so fast, that the world went from harvest gold to bone white overnight. People said it was the harshest winter in 30 years. Roads were buried, doors froze shut, horses were found stiff and glistening in their stables, eyes wide with cold and terror. And Kai was gone, vanished in the morning light, leaving only a trail of frost-kissed footprints leading away from his window and out into the white. No signs of struggle, no note, just absence and ice. They searched for days. The townspeople waded through chest-deep drifts, shouting his name, praying he'd wandered off in some days. But Gerda knew better. She knew because the night before he vanished, he had whispered to her, "She's coming soon. I can hear her footsteps in the snow." No one believed her when she told them about the woman in white, the one Kai had spoken of. They waved her off, said the cold was making her hysterical, that she needed rest, warmth, patience. But Gerda had seen the silhouette that night through the frost-webbed glass. She saw a figure in the falling snow, tall, draped in shimmering white, her face blurred by the storm, no footprints left behind, no breath, just a presence that made the icicles groan and the shadows stretch. That was the night Gerda stopped dreaming of spring. The weeks that followed were hollow. She sat at the window every day, watching the street where he used to walk. People came and went, careful to speak softly around her. They left baskets of food, offered blessings and pity. but their eyes said what their mouths didn't. He's gone. But Gerda felt him. She felt him in the hush between snowfall, in the cold that pressed against her bones, in the way her breath sometimes curled upward, as if reaching for something that wasn't there. So she did what no one expected. She packed. From her grandmother's cedar chest, she took a heavy fur cloak that had belonged to a hunter long dead. She wrapped dried berries, hard cheese, and fireseed roots into a satchel, a small lantern with a blue glass flame that never flickered, and the knife Kai had given her, a little thing, more decorative than useful, but she couldn't leave it behind. She whispered to the wind, "I'm coming," and stepped into the snow. The frost greeted her like an old friend. The wind howled low and close, curling around her ankles and lifting her hair. The world beyond the village was bleached and howling, an endless expanse of white, where the sky and ground blurred into each other. Snowbanks reared like frozen waves. Trees stood stripped and black, arms raised in silent alarm. The first night, she slept in the hollow of an overturned cart. Snow piled around her like a shroud. She dreamt of ice cracking under her feet, of Kai's voice calling her name from deep below. The second night, she followed a set of strange tracks, too long to be human, too slender to be wolf. They ended in a clearing filled with shattered ice statues, their poses twisted in agony. One still had lips parted in mid-scream. She walked faster after that. By the fourth day, her lantern froze over. The flame inside still burned, dim and blue, but the glass had crusted with rime, making it look like a caged star. Her fingers bled from the cold. Her lips cracked. She chewed fireseed root to stay awake. She was no longer sure what kept her moving. The cold had crept into her thoughts, numbing more than fingers. She spoke aloud to herself, not to stay sane, but because silence now felt full, crowded. And then she found the girl, curled in the hollow of a frozen tree, eyes wide, lips blue, limbs folded like a doll that had been dropped. At first, Gerda thought she was dead, until the girl blinked. Gerda rushed to her, pulled off her furs, wrapped them around the shivering child, but the girl didn't speak. Her eyes were full of swirling flakes, like a snow globe, and her skin was too pale, like wax. Only one word escaped her lips, a breath so faint it seemed to come from the wind itself. "Run!" Gerda turned. She didn't hear footsteps, didn't see anything, but the snow behind her had gone quiet, too quiet. The flakes were no longer falling. They were hanging in the air, frozen, mid-descent. The girl was gone. The next village was half buried in snowdrifts and silence. Doors hung open, windows cracked with frost. A fox lay curled on a rooftop, frozen with its teeth bared. Gerda passed through like a ghost. Every so often, she caught glimpses, faces behind curtains, eyes watching from attics. No one came out, no one called to her. In the square stood a statue of a woman, cloaked in ice, but it wasn't sculpted. It was real, hands outstretched in supplication, her face locked in a scream, frozen solid from the inside out. The snow beneath her was red, and carved into the stone at her feet were words Gerda could barely read through the frost. She takes what she loves. That night, Gerda dreamed of Kai. He stood in a palace of glass, surrounded by mirrors, but the mirrors did not reflect her. They showed only him in different stages, laughing, crying, screaming, still. And then she saw the Snow Queen, gliding behind him like a shadow made of stars. She reached out and touched his chest with one gloved finger. Frost bloomed across his ribs. Kai looked up. His eyes were bright, unafraid. "I think I love her," he said. Gerda woke with frost on her lips. She walked for 7 more days, through forests of frozen birds, their wings mid-flap, across rivers frozen solid, with fish trapped mid-swim, past wolves that watched from the shadows and didn't follow. On the 9th day, she saw the first sign of the Queen's passage. A man, buried to the waist in snow, arms flailing. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came. His skin had turned the colour of porcelain, and the ice on his face formed a perfect mask. Gerda approached and saw that he had no eyes, just twin sockets filled with clear, unmelting ice. He smiled when he saw her and whispered, without lips, "She's almost done with him." Gerda began to forget the warmth of her own breath. She had long since stopped checking the sun. What little showed through the overcast sky did not rise or fall, only hung there like a dull coin behind sheets of grey. Time no longer passed in hours or days, but in breaths measured by pain. 1 foot forward, another, then rest, then rise again. She stopped crying on the 10th day. Tears froze too quickly, and the sharp sting of ice against her lashes made it unbearable. Instead, she swallowed her grief like fire seed, hot and bitter, enough to keep her moving, but not enough to burn away what was left of her heart. She spoke to herself less. The wind had started to respond. It was on the 12th night that she came to the mirror field. It stretched for miles across the snow, a vast plain where broken glass jutted from the ground like crystals. Some were small, like shattered window panes. Others were monolithic slabs, rising as high as rooftops. The wind shrieked as it passed through them, turning each shard into a hollow whistle. A breath caught in her throat. Gerda moved carefully. Her reflection appeared in fragments. Half her face here, a distorted shadow there. In one pane, she saw herself as a child. In another, older than her grandmother. Then she saw Kai, standing in one of the largest shards, arms at his side, face peaceful. His eyes were closed, but his mouth moved, repeating something soundless. Gerda ran toward it. The shard was taller than any tree, wedged into the frozen earth like a blade. She called his name. The figure blinked and smiled. It wasn't Kai's smile. Not quite. It was close, but hollow, like someone wearing it who didn't understand what it meant. Then the image in the mirror lifted a hand, and so did she. Her body moved without her. She tried to scream, but her mouth remained shut. The mirror had taken control. Her hands mimicked the reflection's every twitch. She staggered back, heart thundering, eyes wide. Her feet found purchase in the snow again, and she turned away from the field without looking back. The wind behind her whispered, "She sees you now." Later, she met the reindeer. It stood in the middle of the path, hoarfrost coating its antlers, its breath steaming like smoke. Its eyes were milky, rimmed with pale blue veins that pulsed faintly beneath the surface. She expected it to flee, but it didn't. Instead, it spoke, not with lips or tongue, but with its mind, cold and quiet, the way dreams speak in sleep. "You carry the knife," it said. Gerda gripped her satchel tighter. It was his. The reindeer blinked. Ice cracked along its flank. "He bleeds stars now. The queen has opened him." "What do you mean?" "She carves with gentleness. She removes only what is unnecessary. I'm taking him back." The reindeer stepped forward. Its hooves made no sound. "What you love is not what waits for you." "Then I'll cut her heart out," Gerda hissed, "and remind him who he is." The reindeer lowered its head. A flake of skin peeled from its cheek, revealing bone beneath. "You would cut his heart then. Hers and his are one." Gerda left the reindeer behind. Snow began to fall in reverse, ascending slowly into the air, like feathers caught in an invisible tide. The forest thinned, trees grew sparse, then disappeared entirely. She crossed a threshold she could not see, but felt, like slipping through skin into something deeper. Ahead, the ice darkened. It was not pure or crystalline, but stained. Veins of black and violet curled through its core like bruises. The wind no longer blew. The silence was total. And there, at the centre of the frozen valley, rose a palace. It had no doors, no windows, only walls that shimmered with trap shapes, arms reaching, faces screaming, mouths open in agony, all pressed just beneath the surface. They moved as she passed, whispered without words, begged without sound. Gerda pressed her palm to the ice. The surface was warm. She found the entrance where the air grew too still to breathe. It wasn't a door. It was an absence, an opening where space itself bent inward, impossible to look at directly. Her body resisted stepping through, as if her bones remembered something her mind didn't. Still, she went in. The light vanished. The floor felt like glass, but slicker, as though coated in a thin film of oil. Her boots made no sound. The hall stretched forever, mirrors lining both sides. She did not look into them, but they looked into her. Images flickered in the corners of her eyes. Kai laughing as a child, Kai bleeding into snow, Kai with his lips on the Queen's wrist, Kai, eyes empty, carving strange runes into frozen walls. Then Gerda, standing beside the Queen, smiling. At last, the throne room. It was shaped like a hollow heart, walls pulsing faintly, breathing in frost. The ceiling was a dome of black ice, where stars moved sluggishly behind the surface, each one dim and dying. Kai stood in the centre, naked to the waist, his chest carved with runes that glowed blue beneath the skin. His hair hung in wet ropes down his back. His feet were bare against the ice, and he did not shiver. When he turned, Gerda stopped breathing. He looked just like she remembered, and nothing like him at all. His face held no pain, no fear, no longing, only peace. And standing behind him, taller than she should have been, more shadow than woman, was the Snow Queen. Her eyes held entire blizzards. Her breath fogged the world around her. Her mouth curved into the softest smile. "You made it," she said. "You always do." Gerda stepped forward. "Give him back." The Queen tilted her head. "He is here." "No, he's not. That's a puppet." Kai's voice spoke then, gentle and distant. "I'm not a puppet, Gerda." Her throat tightened. "You don't sound like yourself. I've just forgotten how to be cold." The Queen drifted closer, bare feet, leaving no mark on the floor. "I've taken nothing from him that wasn't hurting him," she said. "You're stealing him," Gerda growled. "I'm healing him, his grief, his fear, his loneliness, all removed, carefully, with love. He doesn't need to be perfect, he just needs to be him. And yet you came all this way to drag him back into pain." Gerda reached for her knife. The Queen didn't move. Kai did. He stepped between them. His hand found Gerda's wrist, cold, too cold. "I asked her to help me," he said. "I don't want to remember. I don't want to feel. It hurt too much. You said you loved me." He looked at her, confused, as if the word itself had no meaning. "She did," the Queen said, gently touching his shoulder. "But that part of him is gone." Tears stung Gerda's eyes, painful, bright, burning. "I'll bring him back. You can try." Gerda raised the knife. Her fingers trembled, though not from cold. The hilt felt wrong in her grip, small, insignificant against the vast hush of the throne room. Kai's eyes, impossibly calm, bore into hers like still water, reflecting back only what he understood. Nothing, no love, no fear, not even recognition. "I don't want to hurt you," she whispered. The Queen stepped to the side, her form gliding like silk on ice. "Then don't." Kai's hand still held Gerda's wrist, not tightly. He could have been anyone, a stranger on the street, lightly brushing past her, and yet the grip chilled her straight to the marrow, spreading a thin crack through something deep inside. "I followed you across frozen rivers," she said, voice shaking. Past the mirror field, through cursed woods and dead villages, I buried children in the snow. I have nothing left. You could stay, the queen offered. Gerda stared at her. I don't want you, she said. I want him. The queen tilted her head, expression soft. Then take him. She stepped back. Release Kai. Gerda faltered. Something in the queen's tone. It wasn't surrender. It was invitation. Kai dropped her wrist. His hand fell to his side. He didn't run, didn't fight. He only opened his arms, as if to embrace her. Gerda took one step, another, then stopped, because behind Kai, just over his shoulder, the wall of ice pulsed. Slowly, something began to surface, a shadow swimming up through the frost, like a figure trapped beneath thin ice. A hand, a shoulder, a face, her face. It blinked, mouthed a single word. Run. Kai moved, not fast, not sudden, but with eerie smoothness, like water poured downhill. His arms encircled her shoulders. He smelled of snow and ash. His breath fogged the space between them. Gerda stood still. Her heartbeat thundered. Her knife was still in her hand, but it felt less like a weapon now, more like an anchor she hadn't realized was dragging her down. I missed you, he said. The voice was almost perfect, soft, familiar, but it echoed wrong in her chest, as if spoken into a hollow space that used to be full. She looked into his eyes. There was light there, blue, bright, but no reflection. She did not exist in his world anymore, and still, a part of her wanted to sink into the embrace, to believe this was enough, that this could be love, quiet, cold, painless. She pressed her forehead against his and whispered, I'm sorry. Then she stabbed him in the heart. The blade sank easily, no blood, no sound. Kai staggered back, eyes wide, not with pain, but confusion. He touched the wound, looked at his fingers, then at her. He opened his mouth. A single word formed on his lips. Why? And then he collapsed. The queen screamed, not with rage, not with grief, but something far worse, triumph. Gerda stumbled back as the queen stepped forward. The floor cracked beneath her, frost spidering in every direction. The palace shook. Kai's body began to convulse. The runes on his chest flared blue, then white, then black, and something began to rise from him. It was not a soul. It was a shape, familiar, feminine, a figure built of mist and memory, rising like steam from the wound. Gerda saw glimpses, flashes of what the queen had been building in him. A tall man with silver eyes, a smile like winter sunlight, arms strong enough to hold eternity, voice smooth as snowfall. He looked nothing like Kai, and yet he had grown in Kai's bones. The queen fell to her knees, arms outstretched, as the form solidified, her face contorted, not with sorrow, but ecstasy. My love, she whispered. The figure turned to her. It smiled, and then it shattered. The queen's cry was wordless, pure. The walls of the palace cracked. The mirrors screamed. Faces behind the ice pounded with silent fists. Gerda dropped the knife and ran to Kai. He was still breathing, shallow, thin but alive. His eyes fluttered. The runes on his chest faded. She pulled him close, wrapping his arms around her. He was cold, so cold, but the wrongness in his touch was gone. Gerda, he whispered, real, human. She began to cry, but the queen was rising, tall, towering. Her eyes were no longer eyes, just burning voids of snowlight. Her hair writhed like storm clouds. Her mouth opened too wide. Voice layered with 1,000 howls. You broke him before he was whole. Gerda stood, placing herself between the queen and Kai. I didn't come to save him, she said. The queen advanced. I came to stop you. The walls collapsed. Wind howled into the throne room. The stars in the ceiling blinked out one by one. Snow filled the space like floodwater. The queen screamed again and charged. Gerda didn't move. Instead, she reached down and pressed her palm to the ice. The mirror wall, the one that had held her image, shivered, then cracked, then burst, and the face she had seen, her own, stepped forward, eyes burning, hands ready. Gerda, but not. The queen halted, confused. The second Gerda, the mirror Gerda, smiled. You loved the wrong one, she whispered, and drove her fist into the queen's chest. The explosion turned the world white. Gerda's ears rang, her vision swam. She felt herself falling, arms around Kai, the world spinning away beneath them. The last thing she saw before she blacked out was the queen's body crumbling into snowflakes, not vanishing, just scattered, waiting. The old woman's warning had sunk into Gerda's mind like a thorn in flesh, too small to kill, too deep to ignore. She had said the Snow Queen didn't steal hearts, she rearranged them. The thought spun in Gerda's head as she walked beneath pale skies and trees laden with frost, each branch clawing at the air as though reaching for warmth that would never return. Her boots were soaked, the soles frozen stiff, but she pressed forward. The old woman's final words echoed in her mind, bitter as ice water. He won't thank you when you find him. Gerda didn't care, even if Kai's lips were frozen shut, even if his eyes held no recognition. She would bring him home. She would remind him of summer, of the crack of apples splitting under teeth, the hum of bees, the games played until the street lamps flickered on. She would make him remember, but the forest grew stranger. It was no longer just cold, it was watching. At first, she thought it was a trick of the snow, the way wind moved in swirling dances across the drifts. But when she stopped, heart stammering in her chest, the air stopped too. When she ran, the wind whispered faster. Shadows between trees shifted just a breath too quickly. She wasn't alone. It wasn't the Snow Queen, not yet. It was something before her, something that stalked the edges of the Queen's domain, feeding on what the cold hadn't yet taken. Gerda kept her knife close now, and not for cutting bread. She found the river next, or what used to be one, a wide, frozen artery stretched through the land, so still and glassy it looked like black ice had swallowed the world. Snow had blown over much of it, but patches of slick mirror shone through, and in them Gerda caught glimpses of herself she didn't like. In one, her reflection had too many teeth. In another, no eyes. In a third, she smiled, but her shadow did not. She hurried across the frozen river, boots sliding, arms flailing. Halfway through she slipped and landed hard, her breath torn from her lungs. Her palms burned against the ice, then numbed instantly. She started to rise, then froze. A shape beneath the ice blinked up at her, eyes human, wide and pale, staring through the ice like a fish beneath the surface. Gerda scrambled to her feet. The shape didn't move. It was a body, a girl no older than her, her face twisted in something between terror and wonder. Her hair floated like seaweed around her, and her lips were blue. Gerda backed away, her breath fogging as panic clawed her throat. Then she noticed something else. The girl's hand was reaching upward, palm open, pressed almost perfectly against the underside of the ice, fingers splayed, as if she tried to reach out before freezing there. Gerda stumbled backward and ran the rest of the way across. She didn't stop until she was deep into the forest again, knees weak, stomach rolling. She dropped to her hands and knees and retched bile into the snow, then wiped her mouth with a shaking hand. The land didn't want her here, that much was clear. But then she heard him, not in the forest, not aloud, in her mind. Gerda. She snapped her head up, breath caught in her throat. It was faint, faint as memory, but real. A whisper threaded through the silence, one she knew down to the marrow of her bones. Kai. She rose, wiping her hands against her coat, and turned toward the voice. It led her to a strange garden, if such a word could even apply in this frozen place. Here the trees grew in unnatural spirals, their trunks curving like broken ribs. Ice flowers bloomed along the branches, but none held colour, just glass-like petals, sharp-edged and glistening. Snow fell in patterns too regular, as if choreographed. In the centre stood a statue, carved from ice, so clear it looked like a man frozen mid-scream. But it wasn't a man, it was a boy. Gerda moved closer. She knew that face. She would know it anywhere. It was Kai, frozen, not in flesh, but in form. This was a sculpture, a perfect replica of him, smiling faintly, eyes blank, arms outstretched, carved perhaps from memory. Gerda touched its hand. Cold bit into her fingertips. It didn't melt. "Why did you come?" said a voice behind her. She spun. A girl stood at the garden's edge, not the Snow Queen, no, too young. Her eyes were dark, her skin pale as milk, and her dress shimmered like frost on stone. She had no shoes, but her feet left no prints in the snow. Gerda said nothing. Her hand fell from the statue. The girl smiled. "You're earlier than the others. Most don't make it past the river. Who are you?" "I'm one of her first," the girl said simply, as if that explained everything. "She let me keep my voice." Gerda's mouth was dry. "Where's Kai?" The girl's smile faded. "He's being perfected." A chill passed through Gerda that had nothing to do with the cold. "She takes only a little at a time," the girl went on, "so they don't notice. Their fear, their shame, their pride, she carves them away like stone. Eventually, they stop struggling. They become..." "Become what?" The girl tilted her head. What she lost? A gust of wind screamed through the garden. Ice flowers shook like rattling teeth. The statue of Kai seemed to smile wider. "She's teaching him how to love her," the girl whispered. "Properly, this time." Gerda stepped back. "She can't make him love her," she spat. "You can't force love." "You think he's being forced?" The girl laughed. "He asks for the kisses now. He begged for the last one." Gerda's world tilted. Her chest felt hollow. "No," she whispered. "You're lying." "He's almost ready," the girl said. "Another day or two, and then he'll forget you." Gerda clenched her fists, heat blooming in her throat like fire. "I'll remind him." The girl's expression softened. "You won't get the chance. She's coming. She knows you're here." The ice flowers bent inward, as if bowing. The trees trembled, and on the northern wind came a voice, cold, ageless, impossibly far and impossibly close. "Gerda." This time it was not Kai's voice. It was hers. The wind had softened. Gerda stood at the threshold of a strange hollow in the snow, a place where winter seemed paused. No blizzard swirled within this glade. No flurries danced in the air. It was quiet, eerily so, as though the snow held its breath. The trees here were twisted, not from wind, but from something deeper. Their trunks spiraled unnaturally, bark split open like wounds, and the leaves, yes, there were leaves somehow untouched by frost, were shades of grey and pale lilac, their veins glittering with frost that never melted. In the centre of the glade stood a gate. It was wrought of bone-white iron, curling into shapes that suggested vines and limbs and things with teeth. A low hum radiated from it, barely perceptible, like the feeling one gets just before thunder breaks. Gerda felt her stomach churn. A girl stood just inside the gate. She was no older than Gerda, maybe younger, dressed in a gown stitched from petals of long dead flowers. Her eyes were shut, her lips parted, as though she might speak, if only she remembered how. Snow crusted her shoulders, her hair, her fingertips, yet she did not shiver. Gerda approached slowly. "Hello." The girl did not respond. She reached the gate, hand hovering over the latch. "Are you all right?" Still nothing. Then, with the brittle sound of breaking ice, the girl's eyes opened. They were empty, not blind, not lifeless, just vacant, mirrors that had forgotten how to reflect. "You're not supposed to speak here," she said, in a voice like falling ash. "You'll wake them." Gerda's fingers jerked back from the latch. "Who are you?" The girl blinked slowly. "I was looking for someone. I think I forgot who." She stepped aside, the gate creaking open, without touch. Beyond it, the garden stretched in unnatural symmetry, hedges trimmed into faces that screamed without sound, flowers with petals like eyelids, pools of ice so smooth they could not be natural. "Where is this place?" "The Snow Queen's memory," the girl whispered, "a piece of her mind, carved from frost. We are her thoughts here, her regrets, her collection." Gerda stepped through. The cold didn't deepen as she walked. It thickened. It became presence, like something watching, brushing her neck, pressing gently at her ribs. The silence was broken only by the distant sound of water dripping into unseen depths. Everywhere, Gerda saw frozen figures. A boy asleep beneath a tree with blue bark. A woman sitting at a loom that weaved shadows instead of thread. A child holding a bird with its wings stretched but never flapping. "Who are these people?" Gerda whispered. "They were loved, or almost loved, or once promised love," said the girl, now gliding beside her like a ghost. But she couldn't make them fit. Gerda paused beside a statue of a young man. His eyes were open, mouth caught mid-smile. His chest was cracked, as though someone had tried to scoop out his heart with bare hands. And what happened to them? They didn't become him. Gerda turned. "Him?" The girl nodded toward the farthest point in the garden, where the hedges converged into a spiral, the path sloping downward into shadow. "She's building him again," the girl said, "piece by piece, from others, from us. She needs the right soul, the right shape, the right sorrow." Kai. Gerda didn't need to say it aloud. The weight of it settled in her bones like iron frost. The garden pulsed. Something had noticed her. She ran. The spiral path twisted tighter, hedges whispering her name with frozen leaves. The statue seemed to shift behind her, heads turning in her peripheral vision, arms rising slightly, as if reaching for her warmth, or her memory, or both. At the spiral's heart, there was a chamber, not a room, a chamber, as if inside something living. It was spherical, its walls pulsing with a pale blue glow. The ceiling shimmered with veins of ice that beat like arteries. At its centre, on a dais of frostbitten roses, stood the Snow Queen. She wore no crown, only a long veil that drifted behind her like mist. Her hands were pale and long, wrapped around the shoulders of a boy who sat slumped before her, his back to Gerda. "Kai!" Gerda's voice caught in her throat. "Kai!" The boy stirred, slowly, His head turned, just slightly. One eye met hers. It was empty, but not in the way the girl's eyes had been. Kai's eye was full of snow, infinite snow, snow with thoughts, snow that watched back. "You shouldn't be here," the Queen said, without looking at her. "Give him back. You don't understand." Her voice was soft, melancholy. "I'm healing him. You're destroying him." The Queen turned, and for the first time, Gerda saw her face in full. It was not cruel, it was grief-stricken. Her features were delicate, her skin smooth, but there was pain etched in every line. Pain so ancient it had frozen in place. "I have lost him too many times," she said. "He falls apart. They all do. But this one, he's strong. He stays. You've taken things from him. A little warmth, a few memories, nothing he can't live without." She reached up, brushing Kai's hair tenderly. He didn't flinch. He didn't blink. Gerda stepped closer. "You said you lost someone." The Queen's eyes flicked toward her. "He was like you, so full of hope, so alive. But the world didn't make room for us, so I carved out my own. Here, in ice, in memory. You're trying to turn Kai into him." The Queen smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. What is love, if not the reshaping of another into something familiar? Gerda moved fast. She grabbed Kai's hand. Cold, so cold. He didn't react. "Look at me, Kai. Please, remember." He blinked slowly. Snowflakes spilled from the corners of his eyes. Gerda pressed her forehead to his, whispering memories. The toy horses they made from twigs. The way he used to whistle off-key. The warmth of sunlit cobblestones beneath their feet. The chamber pulsed. The Queen stepped forward. "Don't. These are his, not yours. Don't take him from me again." Ice cracked beneath their feet. The roses shriveled. The air hissed. Gerda held him tighter, and for a moment, just a moment, his hand twitched. The snow no longer fell gently. It slammed sideways, needling through fur and fabric, lashing Gerda's cheeks raw as she stumbled across the endless sheet of white. Her boots crunched against surfaces she could no longer tell were stone or ice. There were no more trees to guide her, no road, no stars, no sign of life. The storm had erased the world, yet ahead, past the screaming gale, she saw light. It pulsed faintly like a dying heartbeat, pale blue, flickering beneath a dome of swirling ice. A hill of frost and jagged crystal loomed in the distance, crowned with turrets like broken glass. The Snow Queen's palace rose not from the earth, but from the sky's reflection itself, a cathedral of absence. Gerda stumbled to her knees as the wind died all at once. The silence was total. The storm parted. The gates loomed 30 feet high, carved with swirling sigils and scenes of endless winter. Great wolves of ice and smoke guarded them, frozen mid-snarl. Their eyes were hollow, their breath was frost. Gerda stepped forward. The gates did not open. They dissolved. The interior of the palace was an echo of absence, a world carved from blue-white crystal and obsidian mirrors, light refracted in impossible directions, never casting shadows. No servants walked here, no fires burned. The very air seemed frozen in time. She stepped into a great hall. The ceiling stretched so high, it vanished into a mist of cold stars. And at the far end, beneath a window of broken constellations, sat the throne, empty. Kai stood beside it. He was dressed in white and silver, his coat lined with fur, his hair combed back into a crown of frost. His eyes were calm, serene. The jagged shard of ice still shone faintly behind his right iris, but there was no flicker of recognition when he saw her. Gerda didn't cry. She simply walked forward, her boots clicking sharply on the frozen floor. He didn't stop her. He didn't speak. She stopped a foot from him. "Kai," she whispered. He blinked. "You made it." She laughed, but it broke too quickly. "Of course I did." His gaze didn't warm. "You shouldn't have come." What are you saying?" "I came to save you." "I don't need saving." Behind him, the throne pulsed faintly, not with light, but memory, images frozen in its surface. A dark-haired boy with a tender smile, a different face than Kai's, but similar, too similar. Gerda's breath caught. "Who is that?" Kai turned slightly. "His name was Lior. He died before I was born." "The Snow Queen loved him," Gerda said, more a statement than a question. "Yes, she did." Kai turned back to her, his voice almost gentle. "She doesn't want to rule. She doesn't want to conquer. She wants to remember." Gerda's legs trembled. "She's using you," she whispered. "No," Kai said. "She's rebuilding." A sound echoed through the hall, like glass humming under pressure. Gerda turned. The Snow Queen stood at the top of a staircase of light, her figure gliding more than walking, her gown trailing behind her like the aurora borealis, glittering with frost and starlight. Her eyes were fathomless, carved from the depths of glaciers. Her crown was thorned with shards of sorrow. She did not smile, but she did not look hostile. Her gaze passed over Gerda, like wind brushing the surface of a lake. "You made it," she said, her voice crystalline. Gerda took a step back. "Give him back." "I have not taken him. You've been changing him with every kiss, every whisper. I am reminding him of someone he's not." The Queen tilted her head. "He is not yet Lior, but he may become more than Kai. I don't want more. I want him." The Queen walked slowly toward them, the temperature dropping with every step. Flowers on Gerda's coat crisped black and flaked away. "You speak of love," the Queen said. "You believe it means possession, holding, keeping someone unchanged. That's not true." "No," the Queen gestured to Kai. "You wish for him to return to how he was, but he has seen the cold. He has touched grief. You cannot erase that." "I never wanted to erase anything," Gerda snapped. But you're moulding him into a dead boy. That's not love. That's replacement. The Queen paused. For a moment, the cold seemed to ease. I remember Lior, she said. I remember his hands, his laughter, the way he trembled before the storm and still walked into it. I remember his warmth. I remember being. Her voice cracked like a glacier splitting open. Do you know what eternity feels like when the one who loved you is gone? She whispered. It is not peace. It is not beauty. It is hunger. She looked at Kai. And then I found pieces of him in others. A smile here, a scar there. But you. She reached out, not touching Kai, just hovering. You were the first who dreamed of him. You summoned him back. Kai's mouth twitched. I don't remember that. You will. Gerda took Kai's hand. His fingers were cold, but not lifeless. Please, she said, come home. Kai looked between them, and for a moment, something inside him flickered. The boy who once made flower crowns, the boy who drew wolves on windows and chased laughter across rooftops. Then his hand pulled away. I am home, he said quietly. The Queen said nothing, but Gerda screamed. Gerda staggered to her feet. In the hollow silence after the Snow Queen's retreat, the chamber that had once pulsed with crystalline majesty now lay hushed, the throne an empty thing of angles and frost. No movement stirred except for Kai, his slow, heavy breaths, fogging in the cold, his hands limp at his sides. She stumbled to him, slipping on a film of rime beneath her boots. Kai, she whispered. His eyes met hers, not hollow, not glassy, but tired, conflicted. You shouldn't have come, he murmured. I didn't want you to see me like this. Gerda knelt before him. I came because I remembered, because I refused to forget who you are. Kai smiled faintly. Do you remember how we used to sit on the roof and look for shapes in the clouds? Yes. You said you saw a swan, and I said it was a horse. We argued for an hour, and then both agreed it was a dragon, just so we'd stop fighting. His breath hitched, almost a laugh, but something bitter caught in it. I haven't thought about that in so long. You can come home, she whispered. Please, come back with me. Kai turned away from her, his eyes scanning the glacial palace. The spires had begun to drip, slow tears of meltwater trailing down their flanks. She showed me things, Gerda, not just illusions, memories, pieces. Her pain, her longing, it's endless, and I felt it, like it was my own. She's twisted it all. She's feeding off of you. No, he said quietly. She's giving to me. I'm not just being emptied. I'm being filled with him. Her lost prince, her creation. I know his thoughts now, his regrets, his memories of walking with her through mirror gardens and halls made of wind. You're not him, Gerda said fiercely. You're Kai. You're my Kai. I was. His voice was almost tender. But I've been broken, Gerda. She didn't just take from me, she replaced what she stole. I remember who I was, but it's like watching someone else's life through a frozen window. Tears burned in her eyes, threatening to freeze on her cheeks. Then break the window. He smiled again, broken, haunted. What if I don't want to? She felt something inside her lurch. Don't say that. I'm not saying it to hurt you. I'm saying it because I feel it. The cold doesn't frighten me anymore. I understand it now. It's quiet, peaceful. There's no screaming, no fear, no fire of emotion that leaves you raw. Just silence, and her presence, constant, gentle. She doesn't demand, she just waits. Gerda clenched her fists. That isn't love, that's possession. I know. He looked down at his own hands, flexing them slowly. Frost bloomed across his fingertips. But it's what's left. Gerda reached forward and took his hand. It was colder than ice. A strange shiver ran up her arm, like something was watching through his skin. Her heart quaked. Then let me remind you, she whispered. Let me show you what warmth is, what we are. She pressed her forehead to his, the way they had when they were children, hiding beneath blankets from summer storms. She thought of his laughter, his crooked teeth, the way he once made a crown of dandelions for her and called her Queen of Everything. And she let it burn. Something inside her cracked, like glass, but it wasn't her breaking. It was the heat of her heart pouring out. Every memory she had of him flooding into the frozen chamber like a spring thaw. The ice hissed beneath them. The air steamed. Kai gasped. He pulled back. His breath was rapid. His eyes wide. I remember the attic, he said. The sun used to come through the boards and make your hair look gold. Yes, she said, tears now flowing freely. Keep going. He clutched his head. But it hurts. It's burning. It has to, she said, gripping his shoulders. That's what healing feels like. Pain, and then clarity. He sank to his knees, sobbing, not with cold, but with something thawing too quickly inside. A scream burst from him, guttural and sharp, and then snow burst outward, a spiral of ice shards as something shrieked across the far end of the throne room. The Snow Queen. She surged toward them, eyes ablaze, veil torn from her head, hair wild and writhing like tendrils of snow-laced smoke. No longer serene, she was ravaged, a creature of mourning and fury, lips drawn back from gleaming teeth. You would take him from me, she hissed. After all I've given. Kai stood, body trembling, frost flaking from his skin. I was never yours, he said, voice shaking but clear. You were becoming, she snarled, and you still can. One kiss, Kai, just one. You'll forget her, forget yourself, and it will finally stop hurting. Gerda stepped in front of him. No, she said. Not again. The Snow Queen lunged, but Kai's hand found Gerda's, and the warmth that passed between them was blinding. Light seared the chamber, white and blinding, and a crack split the air like a thunderclap. The Snow Queen was thrown back, her form shattering into 1,000 snowflakes. They scattered to the ground, melting almost as soon as they touched the floor. Only her veil remained, fluttering slowly to the icy stones. Kai collapsed. Gerda caught him. The throne crumbled. The pillars wept. The palace, for the first time in centuries, began to melt. The palace had never seemed more alive. The ice trembled with anticipation, every mirrored pillar exhaling soft plumes of frost like breath. Shards shimmered along the floor, forming mosaics of memory and grief, sacrifice and desire. The wind no longer howled, it whispered, soft, coaxing, reverent. The Snow Queen waited in the heart of her palace, seated on a throne of petrified frost, her face no longer cold, but luminous, almost human. Her veil had fallen, her silver crown glistened with frozen tears. In her lap, Kai rested, eyes closed, breathing slow and even. His skin was glassy pale, but peaceful, and Gerda stood before them, cracked and hollow. The mirror shard in her chest pulsed, the rhythm no longer hers. The closer she had come, the more it had twisted, rooting itself around her ribs like a second heart. She felt it beat, not with love, but with longing, not hers. Hers had been buried somewhere in the snow. You see, the Snow Queen said softly, brushing a pale hand across Kai's cheek. He sleeps, at last. No pain, no confusion. I have taken the burden of feeling from him. All that remains is peace. Where is he? Gerda's voice was thinner than frost, but sharper. I want to hear him say it. The Queen's head tilted. You still believe there is something left of the boy you followed, the boy who clung to memories like lifelines. Her fingers curled beneath Kai's chin, lifting it. Kai's eyes opened. They were a pale, brilliant blue, empty of colour but filled with clarity. They didn't even flicker toward Gerda. She stepped forward. Kai? He turned his head slowly, eyes meeting hers. You're here. The words were without warmth, like reading from a line. He no longer understood. Gerda trembled. You remember me. I remember you, he said. But I no longer feel the ache of you. The Queen smiled with something like pity. He remembers the way one remembers a painting in a ruined house. He has chosen silence, and I have given it to him. No, Gerda whispered, stepping closer. You took it. Kai didn't react. He simply stood. I don't miss the cold anymore. I don't miss the warmth either. I am. She reached out. Her hand brushed his, and for a second, something sparked. He flinched. Behind his eyes, something flickered. Grief, recognition, pain. The mirror shard in Gerda's chest burned. The ice beneath them cracked faintly. The Snow Queen rose. Enough, she said. the throne shedding layers of frost with the motion. You came to reclaim him, and I let you, but he is no longer yours to take. You would drag him back into sorrow, into fear, into the chaos of feeling. He has peace here, do not tarnish it. But Gerda had already fallen to her knees, not in surrender, in choice. She pressed her hands to the ice and whispered, "Then take me too." The queen stilled. "I loved him," Gerda said, her voice breaking at last. "And I still do. If love means becoming empty with him, then I choose it. If it means forgetting what we were to have silence in him, I'll be quiet." The queen's expression changed, not triumphant, but startled. "You would become as he is. I would become with him." The shard in her chest writhed. Pain surged through her spine, splintering across her limbs. She gasped, and blood, red, hot, hit the ice like a scream. Kai reached out. He caught her, and in that touch, one real, one lost, a third thing bloomed. The shard within Kai's heart cracked. Gerda's breath shuddered from her lungs. "If I forget myself, let it be beside him." "No," Kai whispered. His voice was real now, raw, breaking. "No, Gerda, don't." He pulled her up. His hands clutched hers with desperate strength, not cold now, but trembling. "You came all this way. For me, you can't give that up." She looked at him through tears. "But you don't feel any more. You're gone." He cupped her cheek. "I didn't feel anything until you bled on the ice for me." A thunderous crack shattered the silence. Above them, the mirrored ceiling split open, letting in the first light of dawn. The wind howled, not in hunger, but in grief. The palace groaned. The Snow Queen stepped back. Her eyes met Kai's, her creation, her child, her love reborn, and found him refusing. "No," she said. Kai turned. "I remember now. I remember who you wanted me to be. He was beautiful. He was kind. He loved you. But I am not him." Her mouth opened, but he silenced her. "I am me. I loved her." He turned to Gerda. "And I still do." The queen's skin cracked, tiny fractures radiating across her forehead. Her breath came as fog. The love she had stolen splintered around her like the mirror before. "I built you," she whispered. "I made you perfect. You made me empty," Kai replied. Gerda stood beside him. Her chest still burned, her body still cracked, but she held his hand. Their warmth was shared now, not stolen. The Snow Queen screamed. The sound was not rage, it was mourning. Her crown shattered, her form twisted, beauty crumbling into something raw, ancient, wrong. The love she had gathered, stolen, hoarded, spilled out like mist from a broken jar. The palace groaned once more and collapsed. When Gerda opened her eyes, she was lying in snow, but it no longer bit. Kai was beside her, blinking up at the sky. It was spring, or something like it. birdsong broke the silence. His fingers wrapped around hers. "I'm sorry," he said. She didn't answer. She only pulled him close. Behind them, where the palace had once stood, there was only a field of glass. In its centre lay a single perfect rose, half buried in frost, its petals made of mirror. Gerda looked back just once. The wind whispered her name. She chose to walk forward anyway.